So just what is your buzz trying to tell you? So I'm sure, as you know, as you drink, your body reacts differently based on how much alcohol that you have. That's pretty normal. So those reactions in your body are the predictable effects that alcohol gives you as you drink. Now, we're going to talk about those a little bit in a second, but one thing that I want to remind you is, although you may have different predictable effects than what we're going to show on this slide, it could mean that your body has built up a tolerance to alcohol. So what that means is the predictable effects don't quite match up to the BAC that you may have. So you might be at a 0.10, but you feel like you're at a 0.02. That's fine. That's the predictable effect is different in your body. However, just because the effects of that alcohol feel different in you, that does not change what your BAC actually is. So it still doesn't matter how you may feel. The more drinks that you have, no matter what, your BAC is going to go up. Even though you feel like you might be perfectly fine and you're at a 0.20, which is sometimes when people pass out and you're feeling just fine, your BAC is still at a 0.20, even though that you feel like you may be at a 0.00. So just wanted to throw that out there for you to remember. So now we're going to talk about some of the predictable effects that you might be feeling. So typically at a 0.02, 0.04, that's when people first start drinking. You might feel a little lightheaded, starting to feel a little bit of the drink in your system, but not a whole lot of changes are happening. At 0.05 to 0.07, this is what we call the perfect buzz. This is where we want you to try and stay this or below. This is where you get all the benefits of alcohol, none of the drawbacks. So you might be feeling more relaxed, more flirty, more happy. Alcohol affects everybody in a different way, but this is the point where you've just started drinking and you're at your perfect buzz. So after this, you get to 0.08 to 0.10. This is when you're legally impaired. Now, the reason that this is when they do the cutoff of you can't drive, you can't give consent for sex, is because your inhibitions are way lowered. Your reaction time is really getting thrown off. Your self-control has gone down, and also your vision starts to go. So your eyes are a muscle. And so what that means is when you're drinking, alcohol affects your muscles. So even though you feel like you can see fine, you can't. Your eyes are not focusing properly because alcohol is affecting that muscle system. So keep that in mind. Next, at 0.11, 0.15, you're really starting to get that dysphoria feeling, so you're starting to get a little bit irritated. Some people might get depressed. You're not really thinking straight and you're not really walking straight. So this is the point where people start to get the little drunk swag going on. So that's about where you are at 0.11, 0.15 when you're starting to not be able to walk as straight. So 0.16, 0.19, this is when people are very drunk. You start to get very dizzy, very nauseous. This is typically when people start to think, oh, I might need to slow down on my drinking. Well, you're a little bit past that point if you're trying to stay at the perfect buzz. So if you're feeling like you're starting to get really sick, you're probably at a 0.19 to 0.16. So at the 0.20, 0.24, this is when people really start to get disoriented. Vomiting starts happening at this point. So actually, when you are throwing up from drinking, that is your body telling you that you're poisoning it. There are too many toxins in my stomach right now, and I have to get that out of me. So that's actually your body's way of helping you and saying, hey, you're poisoning me. You need to stop putting this in my body. That's actually what happens when you're getting sick from drinking. So next, at the 0.25 to 0.30, this is when you're extremely, extremely impaired. This is most of the time when people pass out from drinking. So that's when your body's just had so much toxin, so much alcohol in it that your brain just goes to sleep. And this is a very dangerous time because even though you may pass out at a 0.30, say you have just drank, I don't know, maybe 2 shots or something before your body finally passed out, even though you're asleep, even though you're out for the count, that alcohol is still getting processed inside the body and your BAC is still rising. So you may pass out at 0.30, but it might keep rising to, 0.35, 0.40, and that's when a lot of bad things happen. So after 0.30, alcohol poisoning, the risk of death goes up by 50%. You could go into a coma, you're unconscious, and this is when people run into a lot of problems, is after 0.30. So again, like I said in the beginning, although your predictable effects don't always feel like they match up with how much that you've drank, your BAC is still the same based on how much alcohol you've consumed that night. So keep that in mind. Those are some of the predictable effects that you might have when you're drinking.